When it comes to violence, nobody wins. From the victims, to their families, to the perpetrators of violence who have to live with the consequences of their actions. And when violence starts young, it escalates quickly. I'm Kelly Schultz. In recent years, gang activity has become more prevalent in the city of Omaha and even in rural Nebraska. Since 2008, there has been a 66% increase in forcible rape arrests in individuals under 18. Last year, there were 118 arrests for aggravated assault committed by individuals under 18. But that does not account for unreported assaults related to gang activity, and many crimes related to gangs do go unreported. Brandon Mosley spoke with a former gang member who says gang activity is almost like a family business, but one with horrifying consequences.
The youth is so angry because it's been passed down from generation to generation.
Shay Holloway used to walk the streets of North Omaha where he joined a gang at a young age.
I was 13. And was taken to the youth center for assault. Actually, I assaulted 4 or 5 people with a baseball bat. And I was taken to the youth center.
Before Shay could legally drive a car, he owned his first handgun.
I was 14. And it's crazy. That's the most incredible power any youth can have, and that's why these kids today are killing each other. So they rather jump off the porch and be killers today than to be anything else. But at the age of 14, you have that much power. You got power over anybody, grown-ups, gamers. You got so much power with a pistol. Them guns are very dangerous and very strong and make you feel incredible, I got kicked out of Job Corps for gang banging, for fighting in the cafeteria. Then I went to Kearney and came back here and shot somebody, then had to run out of town, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger. The thrill, you seek that rush, you seek that thrill of people knowing your name in the streets. You want it. It's crazy that you just ghetto fabulous if you hurt others, and at the age of 16, I was actually a monster. I didn't have no self-control. I didn't have no will. I didn't have no passion. I didn't have no care for no one else. This is what I was programmed to do. I was programmed to wake up and hate every morning. I was programmed to grab my pistol every morning. I was programmed to hurt others. At 16, you couldn't tell me nothing. At 16, I was with my baby mama and my girlfriend, and some dude fronted me off, So I knew in my heart that I had to hurt him that day. So I said, okay. So I went to his house and knocked on the door, and it was just crazy. It was madness. So at the age of 16, I had so much hate in my heart. I had hate, and you wonder where that hate come from. How can I hate someone that dressed in blue,
At 16, what a rush for him would be terrifying for others.
Always getting shot at is the scariest, but the most exciting, so it's crazy that it could be so exciting and so scary, It's if you make it out of it, it's like, wow, I made it out of it, but at that moment you're scared, you don't know if you're gonna die that night, and every day waking up, going outside, it's like, is I'm gonna make it home today? A lot of young people, deal with that. When I was young, that was one of the best feelings in the world, to come home, go to sleep at night and be like, dang, I made another day, because people wasn't making it. A lot of young kids ain't making it, so just to make it in that house at nighttime and lay down again is a beautiful thing.
Him being a gang member, that trait was passed down to his children.
I gave my whole family to the streets. All my kids are from the same gang I was from. My nephew, he went through that phase where he wanted to be a gang member. So as a man, your actions, I know a lot of people that every person in their family is gang member because their grandfather started. Their grandfather, then their father, then them. So it's just gonna keep trickling down, It just keep on. My son wanted to be what I used to be so bad, He took on my street name, and he tried every day to be what I used to be. He tried every day to live up to my name, and that's the legacy that I passed down to him. I passed down to him to hate people, to hurt people, to want to kill people, to want to just be pure evil. So we didn't even think that was going to affect our kids. We thought don't none of us think really. We don't think that our actions is going to affect the next generation, then the next generation, then the next generation, but it does.
At the age of 30, Shay called it quits with all of his gang ties.
I finally was strong enough to just say, man, this enough is enough. But it took me way into my 30s to say this. I had to learn how to be a man. I found Jesus. I went to the God mod, gave my life to Christ, and I'm walking with Christ now, you know, and I got better friends now. My friends now, they don't call me up to go hurt people. My friends now, they don't look at me as anything but a good person. You know, they help me out with things. So today, man, life is beautiful. And like you asked earlier, you know, now I'm more of a positive role model for my family. You know, my nephews and my sister and them, they all go to the same church I go to. Man, this journey, it's a testimony, you know, it's a testimony from the struggle that I had to endure to, you know, being a youth in jail, being a grown man in jail, in prison, to today I'm delivered. I'm delivered from all that evilness. I'm delivered to be able to stand up as a man. I'm no longer walking as a child. I'm no longer behaving like a child, you know. Walking as a man, behaving like a man, thinking like a man. You know, I want to live tomorrow. I want to live the next day. I want to see my grandkids live. I don't want my grandkids to ever have to, you know, be in the gang or be influenced by gangs, because it don't lead to nothing but prison or death. You know, I know guys in prison, they would trade their lives today just for their freedom again. You know, they'd denounce being a gang member just to have freedom again, because your gang don't love you once you're in prison. Your gang don't care about you once you're in prison. Your gang don't care about you when you're in the grave. You know, when you're gone, they don't care. Don't nobody care. All you got is your mom, your dad, your sisters, your brothers, your cousins. That's all you got in the world, and it's crazy.
And now since Shay quit his gang, he is starting to get his life back.
My biggest accomplishment is just a couple of weeks ago, my family got to see me get my high school diploma. I walked across the stage a couple of weeks ago, and my kids was there, my nephews was there, my sisters was, the women in my life was there. So that was a big accomplishment, just knowing that I wasn't as dumb as I thought I was, just knowing that I wasn't as stupid as I thought I was, because don't too many gang members graduate high school. You know, we all turned out to the streets at a young age to where school wasn't important no more. But as a man of my age, I walked across that stage and it felt wonderful.
That was Shay Holloway with a look at North Omaha. Now, Teja Velasquez will tell you how South Omaha Gym is helping keep the youth off the streets and out of gangs.
Nestor Redondo is on the right path, doing what makes him most happy, boxing. But it wasn't always an easy path.
I actually got in big trouble, got shot a couple times down here in South Omaha when I was 16, 17. I was always gang banging.
And then a miracle happened. Nestor found someone who had been down that same road.
I didn't care about selling drugs anymore. I didn't care about, I just wanted to get high. I wanted to stay high, and you do whatever it takes. You rob people, no one trusts you, so no one's giving you dope anymore. No one's coming near you. Your own closest friends think you're gonna kill them, and you flip out on people, and you're stabbing people, and you're robbing people, and by the grace of God, since I've been out of prison, I've been able to ask some certain people to forgive me for those things.
He helped me out through everything, so this is one of the reasons I come here.
And here is a club that owner Servando Perales started almost 10 years ago that has brought in many South Omaha teens from off the streets.
I see kids that have come in and have changed their life because of the fact that Victory Boxing Club is not just a boxing club.
Servando can relate with these kids all too well, serving time in federal prison. While serving his time, Servando ran into someone from his past that introduced him to something greater than himself and changed his life forever.
When I went away, I had ran into a friend, an old crime partner of mine, who was a born-again Christian. There's like 400 inmates there, and Frank's the only one I know. So naturally, it was God's wisdom to put someone in my path that I respected and looked up to talk to me about this Jesus.
And it was through Jesus where Servando saw the light. Boxing was something Servando loved since the age of 9, and it was something he could do to get away from the bad in his life. Boxing soon became his new drug, and he realized this passion could possibly save the lives of children in South Omaha that were heading down the path he was once on.
Well, this is something greater than yourself because it's in Christ. You know what I mean? This is a family. You want to join a gang? Join our gang. This is a family, you know? We're loyal to one another. We'll be here for you.
Even though Servando has saved kids from the streets, he knows it's impossible to save everyone. And when that happens, the entire club feels it.
And even in the most unfortunate circumstances, like when we lost one of our boxers, the boxers just came out of the woodwork. I mean, literally. And to me, I get emotional when I think about it, because when you see, 15, 20, 25 boxers wearing all victory shirts walking into a funeral to support one of their fallen, I mean, it does something to you as a coach. It's powerful. It's powerful.
Victory Fighting Club has become a safe haven for 45 to 50 kids a night. And for those who have tried the gang life, it has become their sanctuary.
You can't get comfortable. You stay humble. You're always teachable. We host Bible studies every other Thursday, and so those kids come through that door, they come with all kinds of baggage.
When I turned 15, I stopped boxing. I got into trouble with gang members as well. And, one day I just decided, I miss boxing, and this is what I really love doing. Now that I just got a little older and realized, that's not the best way, but I think actually this helps me out more than anything. When I get pissed off or when I'm mad or angry, this is the place where I come and, let my anger go.
Servando's work isn't only helping the kids of South Omaha, it's helping himself as well. Building Victory Fighting Club kept Servando himself off the streets. He faced a lot of people who didn't think he'd succeed, that he'd go back to his old life. But with his faith stronger than the pull of the streets, Servando proved them all wrong.
I mean, you're looking at a miracle here.
For the Omaha News, I'm Tasia Velasquez.
Chevis Johnson is a gang specialist with the City of Omaha. Thank you so much for joining us. So, what inspired you to become a gang specialist?
Well, I have a history with gangs in my background. I grew up in our city, Omaha, Nebraska, and being a part of the system of gangs and gun violence and everything like that, I really felt the need to give back to my community and, kind of help repair some of the walls that I helped to break down.
Okay. We just heard from Brandon Mosley that gang membership can be passed down from generation to generation. In your experience, is that true?
Not necessarily. I had a lot of gang members and stuff in my family. I still have some people who are involved in gangs and street activity, but growing up, I was kind of part of the first generation of gang members, so it wasn't like, it wasn't passed down from my father. My father didn't have anything to do with gangs or anything like that, but my whole family structure was a lot of crime and drugs and things of that nature. A lot of my uncles and stuff were in and out of the penitentiary and everything, so a lot of me and my cousins kind of easily gravitated to the gangs once they finally arrived here.
What's the main appeal of joining a gang?
It really depends on the person. Some people, it'll be the familyness atmosphere, feeling like, all the people around their neighborhood are more family to them than anything else. A lot of them, it's the allure of women or money or anything of that nature, some kind of status. A lot of people really think that, they can get a name for themselves, and some people even think that they can make their family proud through it.
You said that you had personal experience in a gang. How did you break out of the gang culture?
Well, first of all, after going through so many years of pretty much, chasing my tail, not figuring out what my purpose was in life, a pastor reached out to me and really told me that I had something better in store and planned for me. And so he sat me down. I started going to his church a few times just to check it out. Didn't really like church that much and everything, but it really spoke to me. It was a different atmosphere. And just through the process of time of me continually going back, I really woke up to the fact that I had something better to do with my life. I did have a purpose. I was created for a purpose, and that I could actually make a difference in the world.
Is it difficult for people to leave gangs?
Yeah, it's very difficult. For the most part, it's more of a mental aspect. There are some times when there may be issues with within neighborhoods where someone wants to leave and some of the other guys don't like it. But for the most part, it's not the physical harm or aspect. It's the mental part. These are people that you've grown up with. You've done a lot of different things, whether good or bad, but you've created a relationship with them over a span of years. And now all of a sudden you're talking about leaving those people behind. It's very difficult. That was probably the hardest part for me leaving the neighborhood, was getting past that mental aspect and those relationship ties that I've made.
What made it possible for you to leave?
I really decided to put all my focus into my faith as well as getting my education. I always played football and basketball, and so once I graduated, I went to college, but because of the streets, I was kind of going back and forth, and I wasn't getting along with some of my coaches, and so it was easy for me to just revert back to, well, I'm gonna just come back home. I finally got in my head that, you know what, I need to go ahead and finish this thing out. It took me 7.5 years, but I finally graduated. I finished up playing basketball and everything, and it really made me focus on what do I want to do with my life. Because even with going back to college, I figured, you know what, I'm going to go to the NBA, or I'll at least go overseas and play basketball somewhere. But I tore my knee up 2 years in a row. And so then I had to refocus on, okay, well what else can I do with my life? Because obviously athletics is not going to be it.
Do you think gangs are responsible for youth violence, or does it mainly occur on a more independent basis?
I think it's either or. Sometimes you have specific gang-related incidences that really can't be avoided. Then other times you have incidents between two individuals who may be gang-related, but the gang membership has nothing to do with the incident. It could be over a female, a family member, something as little as stepping on somebody's shoe. It could be anything. A plethora of incidents could happen, and it doesn't make a difference if it's one gang against another or even inter-gang rivalries and stuff.
What do you think is the leading cause of violence in youth?
I always say the leading cause of any of these social and economical problems that we have is a lack of purpose. When people don't know their purpose, they'll resort to gangs and guns and drugs and anything else that they possibly can, because they have no focus in life. They haven't created a vision for themselves, and they haven't tried to attain some goals and dreams. And so in reality, whatever vision somebody else gives them is the one that they're going to take. The sad part about it is that, when you wake up at 25 or maybe even 35 years old and you look back on your life, you're really not happy with what has transpired. And that's if you obviously even get to live that long.
What's the youngest you've seen someone in a gang?
I don't know, probably maybe 4th grade, 3rd grade. A lot of times the kids nowadays are growing up, it's like 3rd generation gang members. So whether you want to technically label them gang members or not, I mean, it's not like they're out there shooting people or anything. But at the same time, their uncles, their cousins, their fathers, parents are raising them up in a culture of gangs. They're having them wear bandanas. They got them on Facebook throwing up gang signs. So all the kid knows is whatever the specific gang that their family relates to. And so they're growing up in that culture. And it's only a matter of time before they full-fledged get into committing violent crime.
Do you think there's a difference between gang activity in more downtown areas as opposed to less populated areas?
I don't. I think our gang activity is pretty much spread across the city. We see more, media incidents, more in the North Omaha area, but quite honestly, the violence is really spread out over the years. There was a time where you could probably say, well, it only happens here in Northeast Omaha. Well, nowadays that's not the case. Some people from Northeast are moving out west. Some people out west have just kind of accumulated and assimilated into the gang culture. There are gangs out there. They may not be as highly known as the North Omaha or South Omaha gangs may be, but they're there. you know. So it's kind of spread out. Again, you see more of the media attention is focused on what happens in North Omaha, but it's truly across the city.
What do you do with the city of Omaha?
As a city gang specialist, I really don't have a job description, so I do any kind of intervention and prevention work that I possibly can do. I have access to all OPS schools, so I go in and I talk to youth, sometimes having group sessions, other times as a one-on-one mentoring project. Sometimes I just go into just a few situations. There may be an issue that's happening, whether it's about to be a fight or there was a fight, and I can just step in and kind of figure out what's going on with the situation. A lot of times I have to go into prisons, 2 specific prisons, the Douglas County Corrections as well as the Nebraska Youth Correction Facility. I actually run classes there, and I have a curriculum that I take the inmates through to try to break down the different barriers and the mindsets of gang violence and just violence in general. Other than that, I work with a lot of community agencies and partners. I make sure that when I reach out to my population that I'm able to, actually help them with something. I'm good at talking, but I mean, it does me no good to sit here and talk and kind of get somebody excited if I can't help them get to that next level. So whether it's getting back in school or getting a job, something of that nature, I have those resources available to me.
What's the most difficult part of your job?
The most difficult part would probably have to go to funerals. Working with people, whether it's somebody I've known for years or it's a youth maybe I've just met, seeing somebody lose their life is always hard. It doesn't make a difference how many funerals I go to. A lot of my presentations I take around obituaries. I have 40 to 50 obituaries in a shoebox that I have from people that I've lost in my life. And each and every one brings a different amount of heaviness for whatever reason or another. And it's sad to see somebody lose their life because they didn't know their purpose.
When children get involved in gangs and end up dying as a result, what do the parents go through, do you think?
There's a lot of different processes. Obviously, nobody wants to bury their kid. Everybody wants their kid to, somewhere down in the future, obviously bury them. But to see a mother, or even a father for that fact, crying, lashing out, screaming out, wondering why, what happened, it's a very hard thing. And it's a process that goes on for years. A lot of times people think that, show up at the funeral, give them some flowers, and maybe show up afterwards and eat with them and just kind of console them. But that's a 3, 5, 10, sometimes even longer year process that you have to be able to stick in and help those people because they have a void in their heart. There's something that's gone. There's always something, whether it's a smell, whether it's clothes laying around the house, the room that the kid used to be in. There's something that's missing now because that kid's gone.
Thank you very much. Chevis Johnson is a gang specialist with the City of Omaha. When we come back, youth violence is not a product of 1 or 2 areas of Omaha. You're watching When Violence Starts Young.
The American people have named PBS
the most trusted source of news
and public affairs,
and the most unbiased institution in America
for the 10th year
in a row.
Trust.
The American people have spoken.
Thank you.
The University of Nebraska at Omaha is a place for tomorrow's leaders, a place where individuals converge on a path to success, getting the attention and direction they need as they begin their career. It's where students take pride in serving Omaha, a city we've invested in for more than 100 years. UNO is a place where greatness begins. The University of Nebraska at Omaha.
On February 29, 2000, a 6-year-old boy brought a gun to his Michigan school where he shot and killed a classmate. He is the youngest school shooter. From middle school to high school, shootings are a heartbreaking example of youth violence. Since then, there have been more than 90 school shootings in the United States, most of them committed by teenagers. One of those shootings happened here in Nebraska. Reporter Jared Meyer takes us back.
January 5th, 2011.
So we had a
basketball game the night before in which I rolled my ankle. And so the next day, you know, I was sitting in Spanish class. I was trying to get out of class, of course, so I said, you know, I asked if I could go to the nurse's office to ice my ankle. So she let me go, and I got a pass. And so there I was laying in the nurse's office, and there was a girl next to me, and all of a sudden we hear these, you know, at the time I didn't know they were shots, but of course afterwards we hear, it sounded like 4 or 5 gunshots. And I kind of sit up, and I look at her, and I'm like, you know, let's go, we need to get out of here. So just a couple steps, I mean, you've been in the main office, a couple steps away is a bathroom, and so me and this girl run into the bathroom. About 2 or 3 seconds later, Mr. Pinkle, Mrs. Weaver come in and hide with us. So there's 4 of us in the bathroom, and we were all sitting there calling 911, you know, doing our best to get through, but there are a lot of people, you know, calling so it's hard to get through. And so we're in there for about 30 or 45 seconds, and then Mr. Byer comes in and he says, he's gone. And Weaver and Pinkle run out and do what they can to help, and they told us to stay in there. So me and the girl were sitting in the room, in the bathroom, and a couple minutes later the nurses come back, and they just have blood all over their hands, drenched in blood, and one of them was crying. She was laying on the ground, like crying. And, you know, so at the time I was just hoping, you know, I hope they're okay and nothing bad happened to them, which obviously a lot bad happened.
Coming up will be the 3-year anniversary of that infamous school shooting where Robert Butler Jr. opened fire on Principal Curtis Case and Assistant Principal Vicky Casper after receiving a 19-day suspension for driving his car across the football field. For the 58-year-old Casper, she did not survive after being shot 4 of the 7 shots Butler fired into her torso.
It was incredible to see, just, you know, what this kid had done to our school.
As for Case, he is still running things at Millard South, surviving 2 wounds that hit him in the back and the hip area. Robert Butler Jr. was found dead in his car 45 minutes after he fled the scene due to a self-inflicted shot. For residents in West Omaha, where Millard is located, the school shooting was an eye-opener. As for youth violence in school, Kyler says he didn't suspect or witness any gang activity going on in the hallways of Millard South.
No, you know, I didn't, and I kind of thought Millard was, you know, away from all that stuff, or one of the nicer schools, which it is.
North and South Omaha are not the only areas where youth violence occurs. In fact, youth violence and gang activity spread throughout the entire city of Omaha.
Mayor Gene Stothard has expressed recently that there is a gang problem here in Omaha.
Another tragedy that involved youth violence in West Omaha was back in June of 2008. 18-year-old Julius Robinson, who attended Millard South, was gunned down around 128th and Q by the Oak Ridge apartment complex. Then 18-year-old Daniel Miller, who was a member of the Omaha Mafia Bloods gang, was the shooter. The Omaha Mafia Bloods, or the OMB as they're called, is a gang in Millard, and there is still speculation on whether Robinson was a member or not. Miller, who originally had a life sentence, had it reduced down to 25 to 35 years in prison. The OMB gang consists of mostly white members and even have graffiti tags in parts of Millard. Although gang activity and youth violence is not that common here in West Omaha, it is still an issue for residents and police that cannot be overlooked. But are residents in West Omaha aware that this activity is happening in their area?
Omaha is unique. We're a very diverse city. There's a lot of different ethnic cultures that come into the city, and that definitely comes into play in how people think and react to different sections of Omaha. We have numerous pockets where there is a little bit more violence, and then right next to that is a pocket where it's a relatively safe neighborhood. So because of that, everything is spread out through the entire city. I think people realize that crime does occur all throughout Omaha, and break-ins, burglaries, things like that are a lot of times connected to gang involvement, and that occurs everywhere. So the more people are aware of it and the more they're involved, the more they can help prevent it and the more they can do to stop crime here in Omaha.
For the Omaha News, I'm Jared Meyer. Now Tanner Kaler tells us that even in rural Nebraska is facing issues of violence amongst our youth.
Gangs and violence. two issues typically associated with a large city like Omaha.
Did you ever think that there would be an issue of this sort in Columbus?
No, not in our small 24,000 people community. No, you never think anything like that is probably going to happen.
But Nebraska faces an issue with youth gang violence in smaller, more rural communities as well. Just north of the Platte and Loup River Junction lies the town of Columbus, population 22,000, a thriving small community with a big city problem that started almost 10 years ago.
Probably back in 2005, 6.
It began with assaults, burglaries, and graffiti around town, but soon escalated into more serious crime. In 2008, a 16-year-old shot and wounded 5 rival gang members in a trailer court on the northeast side of town. All survived, but it served as a big wake-up call in the community.
When the first drive-by shooting occurred, I think people decided that maybe we needed to take a look at it more seriously.
If you haven't spent time in Columbus, you might not ever know the gang issue exists. But drive around the neighborhoods just south of downtown, and with a keen eye, you can see the visible marks of gangs' territory for yourself. Graffiti, or tagging as it's referred to, marks the sides of garages, doors, and houses. Most has been painted over by anti-gang members in town, but some still remains visible. As for why small-town Nebraska has a gang issue, there isn't just one reason. Columbus saw a large Latino immigrant population spike in the early 90s.
And if you think about it, those were the families that were coming here to work. And because of that, there was probably a little disparity and a feeling of not belonging. And so I think these kids were just looking for something to belong to.
Gilbert Maschmeyer, an officer with the Columbus Police Department, also sees where the violence comes from.
We had stories where 7th graders are moving in from Los Angeles, California, Phoenix, Arizona, Dallas, Texas, with stories of cousins being shot in the back because they wouldn't give up their starter jackets.
Now, Columbus police tell me that they've learned that gangs can spread to a 250-mile radius of where the gangs are centrally located. With Columbus being situated in the middle of other Nebraska communities that have a bigger gang issue, like Grand Island and Omaha, it makes sense that Columbus would have a gang issue of their own. The young age of gang members in Columbus is perhaps one of the most alarming aspects of the problem. Kids are recruited from the smaller gangs here and get involved with bigger gangs across the country. Officer Maschmeyer says he once arrested a young man who said he was from Los Angeles in Columbus for the sole purpose of recruiting.
We've found photographs, Polaroids of little 2-year-olds, wearing the colors and holding pistols.
Santiago Vasquez works for Columbus Public Schools and has also worked with anti-gang efforts in town. He sees the issue that kids face growing up here firsthand.
Some of the attitudes that are out there is parents, they want to hide and they want to be unnoticed because some of them might be undocumented and they don't want to bring the attention of law enforcement or officials.
To fight the issue, the Columbus community started a coalition entitled T4C, or Time for a Change. ARP and other community leaders wrote a grant and received funding from the state of Nebraska to help get kids off the gang track and keep them in more positive activities. Organizers looked to other cities like Omaha and modeled their programs after ones in place there.
Kids would actually fill up their free time with structured activities, positive activities, and participating in those that would actually feel the reward of being involved in one of those activities and hopefully find something that interests them and hopefully sparks that interest in higher education, getting a career they like, and being involved in those things.
Columbus's police department recently hired several bilingual staff to talk with parents who might have trouble with their children but are not here legally.
And they reiterated that they're not here to necessarily get them in trouble, especially if they're not the ones committing the crime. If it's their child, they're trying to get the reins on and stuff like that.
But Columbus police say ultimately pressing criminal charges is the best way to eradicate the gang issue.
If kids were getting caught at certain crimes, obviously they went forward to the county attorney, and these kids were prosecuted pretty harshly.
And it's working. Violence and other gang crime numbers are down significantly.
Our numbers as far as assaults and stuff in the school systems are way down, way down. We still see some graffiti, but not as much as we used to. So I would like to think that we are making a difference, yes.
these kids and these families are here to stay. And we don't want any profiling going on in our community. We want everyone to feel welcome.
And Columbus police say though the issue isn't gone, it's much less of a problem than it was even just a few years ago. Reporting in Columbus, Nebraska for the Omaha News, I'm Tanner Kaler.
Thomas Warren is the former Omaha Chief of Police and is now the Director of the Urban League of Nebraska. Thank you so much for joining us.
Kelly, thanks for having me.
So, what does the Urban League of Nebraska do to stop youth violence?
The Urban League of Nebraska is a private nonprofit organization, and we administer programs in education and youth development, employment, career services, as well as violence prevention. Our main emphasis is on reducing poverty. We address that in a number of ways, really working with youth and young adults, trying to make sure that they stay engaged in productive, constructive activities. Of course, making sure that they stay in school, graduate, preferably enroll in a post-secondary educational environment, and we help in transitioning them into employment. And so where our focus isn't necessarily on violent crime, we know that there are root causes of crime, and unfortunately, crime can be considered symptomatic of poverty, of some of the other social and economic conditions that exist in our community. So we try to address those root cause issues as opposed to just treating the symptoms.
Do you think education is a solution to youth violence?
Oh, absolutely. And that's why we put so much emphasis on making sure kids stay in school. We offer programs in truancy reduction. We offer aid and assistance for youth who are under the supervision of the juvenile justice system. We offer credit recovery programs to ensure that if kids fail a core class, that they're able to recover that credit so that they can stay on track towards graduation. We recognize that kids have to have positive alternatives to negative activity, and if they're not engaged in productive, constructive activities, they are prone to engage in those illegal or delinquent activities.
How does the UYES program work?
As I mentioned, we administer programs in education, youth development, and so our Urban Youth Empowerment Series is the umbrella. We have a number of programs under that umbrella, including our Youth Attendance Navigators, our Youthful Offender Reentry Program, and our Whitney Young Leadership Academy. And so we take kids where they're at, some whom may be considered at risk, some whom may be gang involved, others with promise and potential, and some the cream of the crop who are college material. And so we take them where they're at, we assess their needs, we deal with their unique situations and circumstances. Some may need help with remedial tutorial support, so we do offer some supplemental educational opportunities. Others, there may be some things going on in their personal life, so we offer intensive case management. We assist youth who are under supervision juvenile court, so if they're on probation or if they are in a diversion program, we are a court-recognized program where if they meet the conditions and satisfactorily complete our program, then of course that bodes well when they have their probation evaluated. And so we take kids where they're at, and of course the ultimate objective is to keep them back on track, keep them engaged in productive activities, keep them in school until they graduate, and then aid and assist them in getting into post-secondary and or finding employment.
Okay. About how many teens and children does the Urban League of Nebraska reach each year?
Generally we serve anywhere between 500 to 600 youth in various programs that we administer. As I stated, we have a series of programs meeting the needs, the unique needs of kids from all walks of life. I think from the education programs that we administer, there may be 200 to 300 kids. We'll have 100 or 200 kids that we administer through the Youthful Offender Reentry programs. We had a summer youth employment program where we participated in collaboration with Step Up Omaha, where we case managed over 100 youth in a summer youth employment program, and that is extended into the school year or for those that are not in school, we have a young adult employment program where we aid and assist youth find employment opportunities, permanent, not necessarily maybe full-time, but year-round part-time employment. And so again, it's that transition from the educational environment into the workplace. We just want to make sure that the youth are reaching their full potential and they're engaged in productive activities.
Okay. When we say Urban League of Nebraska, does that mean your organization works outside of Omaha and Lincoln?
That's a little bit misleading. We are primarily the Urban League of Omaha. We were incorporated statewide, so the Urban League is 85 years since we were founded. We are one of 95 affiliates across the country in 36 states, including the District of Columbia. So we serve primarily the urban community in Omaha, primarily North Omaha. However, we don't have any geographic boundaries, and of course we serve all residents in the state of Nebraska. It just so happens primarily African Americans who reside in North Omaha.
Are you looking to branch out into the rest of Nebraska?
Actually, we focus primarily on Omaha. We recognize that there are a limit to our capacity to serve, and so rather than spread ourselves too thin, we want to focus our attention where we can have the greatest impact. And there are significant needs in our community, and so we want to make sure that we're focusing our resources, we're managing them efficiently, and that we are meeting the needs of the immediate population that we serve, primarily here in Omaha.
Okay. Would you say the problem of youth violence is constantly changing?
It's evolving. Of course, what gets most attention is gang violence, and that has been rather persistent, multi-generational now, and so recognize that an effective strategy to address violence, any type of crime, involves prevention, intervention, and enforcement. And where I served with the police department, I've been retired now almost 6 years. Now my focus of attention is on prevention and effective intervention strategies. That, in my opinion, is what it will take ultimately to have a significant reduction in the amount of violent crime that we experience in our community.
How does your experience working for the police force help you with the Urban League?
It gives me a different perspective. I can tell you that obviously I spent 24 years with the police department. I recognize that there's definitely a need for enforcement and effective enforcement strategies. However, I also recognize that particularly when you're dealing with youth and young adults, if you have effective alternatives, if you have opportunities to divert youth, to get them back on track versus thinking that you can really be heavy-handed and expect with your enforcement strategies that you're going to reduce crime and violence. I don't think that's the most effective, and nor will you see the best outcomes. And so now I have a perspective where enforcement should be reserved for those who are a threat to public safety. However, there's a significant percentage of particularly youth and young adults or offenders that we're not afraid of, we're more annoyed by, and they get engaged in the type of misdemeanor or delinquent types of activities that if you can address them early, it may prevent them from going deeper into the system. And so at the Urban League, that's kind of what we focus on, that low to moderate risk offender, that individual who may be gang influenced, some gang involved, but not hardcore, and hopefully can intervene and redirect that youth so that they recognize that if they continue down that path, they may end up going into the deeper end of the system. And so our objective is to redirect that youth in their behavior.
All right, thank you so much for joining us. Thomas Warren is the former Omaha Chief of Police and is now the Director of the Urban League of Nebraska. When we come back, Paul will tell us more about solutions and prevention. You're watching When Violence Starts Young.
You have many options to gather information, but when it comes to in-depth, thoughtful reporting on Nebraska news, your best option is NET News. Turn to NET News for our daily Signature Story as we examine important issues from state government to education to the arts and beyond. Listen to NET News Signature Story weekdays on NET Radio and online at netnebraska.org/news. NET News. There's more to the story.
As we've seen several times in the program, it's not impossible to escape a life of violence. Not impossible, but not easy. It takes a support system. Some of that support can come from Nebraska and its communities, but as Paul Dobler tells us, just some extra nurturing and a friendly ear can sometimes be the difference.
Teammates was founded by Tom and Nancy Osborne in 1991. The former Nebraska Huskers football coach saw how kids' environments were changing while recruiting players and saw a need for a positive influence in their lives.
Your presence is enough.
Osborne saw that kids were struggling with making decisions about drugs and alcohol and the messages being sent to young people. The Teammates Mentor Program was developed to help youth along the way to make tough decisions in their life. Mentors meet with their mentees for about an hour.
It's 1 hour a week. So 1 hour of your time, can make that difference for a student.
They can meet during school hours or after school. Kids from 3rd grade through high school are eligible to get a mentor through the Teammates program. 70 to 75% of the youth who have mentors with Teammates are from low-income families.
Mentors are in that unique opportunity to say, well, what's right? And let's build on what's right and then help kids create a vision and for their future.
But Teammates gets a wide spectrum of youth looking for a mentor. There are 10 times the amount of kids asking for mentors than there are mentors. Building Bright Futures did a survey of kids in Douglas and Sarpy counties and found that 87% of these kids would want a mentor if available, which means they would need nearly 162,000 mentors.
Look at what are their skills and talents, what do they do well, and be their champion. And that is what kids love about having a mentor.
Mentoring programs like Teammates not only help kids with making better decisions, but helps them set goals for the future.
You have opportunities to have meaningful discussions when choices are made that maybe aren't that great for a student, and they can do it in more of a neutral environment.
The Omaha Home for Boys also helps in the rehabilitation of youth. The Home is a community-based program that utilizes a behavior-based curriculum for at-risk youth. The Home works with kids from 12 to 18 years of age. They focus on emotional disturbances, neglected youth, negative behaviors, and kids caught up in the legal system.
We as an agency has evolved to keep up with, the trend, if I should say, and more so change the negative into a positive and get them back into society or into their environment with better ways to cope.
The program usually lasts about 3 to 12 months, but can be individualized based on what the youth needs.
Lately, the kids, due to some of the things that's been going on out in the community, and just the things that are going on in the times in the generation, almost every kid treatment is individualized, so they are kind of being in a residential group home facility a little bit longer.
The Home offers a $10,000 college scholarship for those youth who graduate the program successfully. Youth are private placed, but can also be referred through foster care, probation, and even through the Department of Health and Human Services.
Probation list has increased. So with that being said, usually those kids, and this is just usually, those kids kind of have a little bit more violence in their background. But it could come from any provider, not just probation.
The Home does accept youth associated with gangs or prone to violence, but watch them a little more closely. But it seems that these kids are breaking the gang member stereotype.
The stereotype is kind of wrong about gang mentality kids or the violence kid in Omaha, Nebraska. These kids actually need more nurturement, and they'll give it to you, but you have to understand they come from an environment of survival, so they're going to put you to the test, and a lot of adults fail that test. So when they do, you probably only get one chance.
Because of programs like Teammates and places like the Omaha Home for Boys, youth are able to make better decisions and become positive contributors to society later in life. For the Omaha News, I'm Paul Dobler.
Ian Garrett is the creator of Infinite 8 and the founder of Infinite 8 Institute. So, what is Infinite 8?
Essentially, Infinite 8 is an 8-week program focusing on different principles, non-cognitive principles. To be exact, those are the opposite of cognitive. So cognitive, those things are measurable, IQ, grades, test scores, and we focus on the more intangible principles, intrinsic motivational principles such as self-discipline, self-responsibility, persistence, fearlessness, excellence, foresight, character, and humility. And in order to get results in the cognitive area, you need to be able to utilize these non-cognitive principles. So instead of telling people to meet these long-term goals like go to college, things of that nature, we highlight particular skills like persistence that you can focus on every single day in order to reach those long-term goals.
Is the program specifically directed at any age group?
Really, we work with every age group. So we work with particularly the junior high all the way up to adults. So it's something that we've created that's universal, that can be applied in the future. Something that we would like to do as far as our programming would be to take it to daycares and to start as early and preventative as we can possibly do.
What made you decide to get involved with youths?
Primarily in my background, I was formerly the spokesperson for the National Mentoring Partnership. So I actually was a product of a mentoring program. I actually was a spokesperson at the national level for the National Mentoring Partnership. I even came back and was on the board. I was the grant chair for the Midlands Mentoring Partnership. So I've seen mentoring from 360 degrees and trying to figure out what buttons to push on an individual in order to get them to really maximize their potential. So we've looked at it from a lot of different angles, and we've been able to work with a lot of different age groups and experiment and try different things as far as, what skills can we focus on and can we highlight in order to get a person to really achieve positive outcomes.
How does the program benefit junior high age and high school age individuals?
In that particular age group, it's benefited from a number of ways. What we do is we have seminars where we highlight every particular learning style. So we'll lecture. They'll also be able to watch videos, to do worksheets. They'll be able to do role plays, and also they'll journal about their experiences. So what they'll do is for one particular subject, let's say persistence, they'll talk about 5 things that they started but never finished, and then 5 things that they always wanted to start but never started to begin with. They'll pick one of those things and then they'll attack it that week. So, for example, suppose that you started, making a deck for your back porch. That this week you'll pick that particular goal and then you'll work on attacking it all week long. So it helps them with goal setting, but instead of us telling them what goals that they should be working on, we allow them to pick their own goals. So therefore they can highlight their own passions and the things that they're interested in, as opposed to us telling them what it is that they should be trying to achieve.
Now, what do you think is the main cause of youth violence?
I think the main cause primarily is individuals being upset and having a lot of psychological issues to where they're not being able to deal with the problems of everyday life in a productive way. A lot of the time, it may be poverty that may be at the core of it, right? You're dealing with people who may go home and it's a situation where there may not be food at home, or their parents aren't around, or it's a situation to where because of the economic issues, it permeates all other aspects of the family and the community. And you have individuals dealing with these tough situations and they're not able to vent that frustration in a way that is productive. And what we try to do is we try to work with those particular demographics in addition to others, but we also work with this group who are at risk, who grow up in poverty, and we try to help them take any type of frustration that they have and take those survival skills that they've utilized to make it thus far and teach them how to thrive and to use those particular skills to propel them towards the epitome of what they can be.
What do you think is the appeal of joining a gang?
I think a lot of it has to do with structure, right? You go in, there's a hierarchy. A lot of times you are able to, bond with those individuals and gain those type of relationships that you might not be able to gain, when you're at home or when you are with your family. So I think a lot of that has to do with the appeal. So it's a way to vent, right? It's a way to take out your anger and your frustration, in regards to the things that you're dealing with on an everyday basis. And then you're around other people who can relate to your story and to your struggle. So it's a commonality that attracts a young person to that particular set of circumstances that brings them into a gang.
Do you think the skills you teach in your program help individuals to avoid gang life?
Most definitely, because what our program does is it teaches a universal set of skills that are common among every human subgroup. And it teaches a person how to manipulate their reality, how to change their situation instead of being affected by their situation. And it teaches them to take that frustration that they have, and instead of letting them break them, it teaches them how to be empowered by whatever circumstances that they may face, and then how to direct all of their energy into one direction, and that direction usually may be their passions or their talents.
Have you personally ever had to deal with gangs or individuals involved in that sort of lifestyle?
Definitely. I think just growing up in the North Omaha community is something that's very common. Either you have a friend that's in a gang, or you have relatives that may be involved with gangs as well. I think when I was younger, I remember going into a grocery store, and as a result, I was arrested from stealing cap guns as a result of being influenced by other individuals who were involved with gangs. And that's a story that I tell in my book, Rebirth of a Dream, how you're looking for something to kind of help you cope with the environment that you're dealing with. And gangs are something that a lot of people go to. And so I think it's something that's real that a lot of people face. But the one thing is that all of those individuals, they have talent and they have things that they can add to the world, but they only need to be given the right circumstances and the right tools to do so.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Ian Garrett is the founder of Infinite 8 Institute and the creator of the Infinite 8 program. We'll wrap things up after this.
A little bit about how you're feeling right now. One thing you would like our viewers to know about this state.
The importance of volunteerism.
What are you saying to folks?
I'm here to discuss these images.
When you can take that knowledge and that expertise and that passion in terms that they're all going to understand.
They need to know the real stories.
I'm Kathy Wyatt. Join us for Consider This each week on NET1.
There is some good news here at the end. Youth violence has been steadily declining for nearly 2 decades. Violent crimes like murder, robbery, and assault are all down since 1994. In Omaha, teenagers committed 7 of the city's murders in 2011. Only 1 murder was committed by a teen last year. And yet, it's not time to let our guard down. Some cities have experienced a new assault pattern called the knockout game. But it's not a game. Young people rush at innocent persons walking by and try to hit them on the head hard enough to knock them out. It's yet another challenge and another example of what happens when violence starts young. For the Omaha News, I'm Kelly Schultz.